Good morning, everyone, and welcome to season two of Footprints in the Market. This is the very first episode of the season, and I did promise you that we'd have a great guest, and we do. We've got Emma Byrne, who is the Director of Publishing from Gentoo Media. Morning, Emma.
Good morning, Sharon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on, especially as I've actually just realised it's a bank holiday. Uh, so,
Oh,
yeah,
it's not for us here in Malta, so I think it's only in the UK and Ireland that took it. So for VE Day, right?
yeah, well, yeah. So, well, I'm happy that you're here, and my
It's
team
a
are
very
probably.
good day.
So we've got everybody in, so that's great. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. So the reason we've got Emma on today is what we wanted to talk about was affiliate SEO, and we're kind of just going to explore some of those affiliate strategies and how they're evolving within the iGaming space, but also how we can unpack a little bit the fine line between search engine success, but also scalable affiliate growth. So I was hoping, Emma, we could just start a little bit with your journey into the iGaming space and your role at Gentoo, and even if you could just give us a little bit of background about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to. So, I started off my career working in digital PR and marketing, and then an opportunity came up within Gentoo. At the time, we were known as iLabs to kind of move more into the iGaming sphere. But so that was my first job in iGaming, and quick fast forward 8 years, and I'm still here.
Perfect. As an industry like no other, I feel like it's not one that you'll ever leave, right? Once you're here, that's you.
I think it definitely gets its hooks into you, and I think I think the word everyone uses is dynamic, and it definitely is a dynamic industry because no one week is the same, no one day is the same. There's always something happening.
And I think that's like transferable into like the marketing aspect of it as well. So like when we're talking about like SEO, it is hugely different when it comes to iGaming as opposed to other industries. Would that kind of be your experience within it?
Yeah, I know, definitely. I think the way Google treats iGaming or your money, your life content, which gambling is classified as, is very different than say if you're just doing e-com. So say if you're just selling sharonsdresses.com or emmasflores.com, we're gonna probably have a much easier journey than we are trying to rank for online casino.
Trust me, no one is buying SharonDresses.com ever.
With the right SEO, Sharon.
So I thought firstly we'd just touch on, how it has evolved. So we're looking at Google's algorithm changes and it does feel as if they're more frequent than ever. Um, Definitely from back in my day. So like when we first started in 2010, SEO was so different within the iGaming landscape. It was all very much content based, it was all very keyword based, and it was much easier to rank. But obviously now, fast forward 15 years, we've had so many different algorithm changes. How does it reshape your content strategies and what you guys do at Gentoo?
Yep, absolutely. So I think the keyword that I'm using, at least with my team, is Google is valuing value.
Yeah.
So that's value for the users more so than just trying to please Google. So before, like you mentioned, there's a lot of older spammy tactics like keyword stuffing or whatever that wasn't necessarily providing the best value for the user. So the recent updates like the helpful content update and everything, they're more trying to provide value to the users and make sure that the users are getting like something from your content, which obviously is value. So, if you're writing a review, do you show have you shown that you're actually using the product or the service from the casino or the payment provider, the slot game, not just saying like this is a really good slot because
Yeah. And I think that's, I suppose, where like eight comes into play as well. And I think within the iGaming space, it is more important because it is a regulated market. So as you're saying, like, it does treat it differently. And I think that maybe, user generated content, something that, has that within it. So it's not just this is great and this is why, and it has backup elsewhere, kind of like Trustpilot, for
yeah,
example.
absolutely. I mean, one of our brands, Ask Gamblers, that's, and Casino Meister, that's what they were built on is, the user generated content or the forums, which are hugely powerful, especially when you are looking at things like reviews, because it's fine for an author to say, yeah, this is the best product ever, but have they tested it? Do you know? No. The players are brutally honest. If they don't like something, they will say, and if something isn't working, or and equally, they're the first ones to share if something is going well. So if they have a good experience, they are posting and saying the customer service was great, the withdrawal times were great, the selection of games was great. So works both ways.
I think as well, the players are actually they're really really knowledgeable about the product as well, and like amazingly so. Like they'll be able to tell you providers, be able to tell you that, and I think that's something that needs to kind of get showcased on these affiliate portals, more as well. So like you need to understand that the players that are going on, they have that background knowledge.
Absolutely, and it's hugely valuable because, we're learning all the time from this, and this is information we can give the operators. So, if the operators go, well, why is our rating so low on your website? Well, looking at the comments that we're getting in or the feedback, there's something wrong with your product. Maybe, they don't like the bonuses, the terms and conditions aren't great, the wait times are too high. This is all super useful information to go back to an operator and say, well, this is why your product is not converting with us, or this is why we've rated you this way, because we're getting this from players. It's not like we just decided, right, we're going to give you 3 stars because
You would just felt like it that
we
day.
just felt like it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think as well, what I was gonna ask was, let's see, when I had first started, affiliate portals were all kind of bingo based, and there was that element of community when it, so see, for example, like in Ask Gamblers, there was like a huge bingo community that they all kind of got involved. Do you think that is something that can be replicated on like a casino affiliate portal or like a slots affiliate portal, or do you think it's just a different product and it's slightly different in how that can be worked?
I definitely think there's space for that. I think if, it's like anybody, if you give someone a microphone, right, they're going to use it 9 times out of 10. And if you give players a forum or a place in which they can share their feelings and thoughts about, what a product is doing or whatever, of course you're going to get that. And there are some players out there that are very passionate about certain brands or certain games or whatever, so giving them a place where they can share all of this, I can't see why not. And I think player communities are like one of the latest trends, and I think it'll be around for a very very long time because it's proving to be hugely useful, not just to Google, but also, to us as affiliates. We get to learn a lot, to operators. They get to learn a lot about, how their product is viewed. Of course, you have in-house testing, but how, an experienced expert is going to test your product is going to be very different than, say, you or I or someone on the street. And if your product is targeting someone on the street, then, well, who best to listen to, their opinion, or to try and take some insights from what they're sharing or what frustrations they're having or the overall experience.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think actually, like, it's works as a really, really good sentiment analysis tool, which is not only great for the SEO benefit for the affiliate, but you're right, there's amazing, customer feedback to the operator that then they should then go back and reevaluate and figure out, actually, if we did this and potentially this affiliate will convert a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said, your in-house testers are going to look at your product very differently than how average Joe Blogs is going to look at it on the street, because they're not going to be as tech savvy or as tech smart. You're testing it knowing where everything is and knowing how the functionality should work. Someone testing it, they're just going to click every button, they're going to type everything, they're going to, do things that you don't expect, and that's what you want, and that's what you're going to get useful information out of, because if someone tests it and go, yeah, everything works, that
Yeah,
doesn't tell me do they like the product, or that just says it works.
it's funny. In my office, I'm actually known as the worst tester of our websites when building, but I think it's the best because I'm so impatient. So I'm clicking something straight away, and what's not
I
happening?
do the same. I love like a button and just seeing like what happens if I do this, but what happens if I double press it? What happens if I look for it here? No, I
I'm
would
like,
do the
"People
same.
are like me." I'm like, so people are exactly like me. So this is what we need. We need to navigate our website. So
I
it's
knew
people.
there was a reason we got on Sharon.
I think so. I think so. So I suppose this kind of ties into like the challenge of it being a little bit of a saturated a market and how you guys kind of stay ahead of the curve and what do you implement to kind of make sure that you are ahead of the competition?
Yeah, so I mean, like a lot of affiliate companies out there, we have a lot of different domains in different markets. So it's all about trying to find out what our niches are, and trying to figure out, okay, this is what separates our products not only from other products in the industry, but also from each other. So say in some markets where we have 2 or 3 different products, like, the UK, we've obviously got Ask Gamblers, Casino Shops Online, John Slots. So we're always trying to look, okay, so then you go, okay, John Slots, that should be a slots focused website, right? AG, they're the only ones that are going to be AG, and they have obviously their forum, the complaint service, the arbitration service.
And I think as well, you're talking about sort of like Ask Gamblers, and obviously that's like a really, really big legacy brand. But I think definitely what some of our maybe like our listeners that are like newer to market would probably be interested in knowing is how you're scaling up from startup to scale, how you're building that. publishing powerhouse and how you're getting there. So, like, from your experience when you're starting up a new affiliate site that's not got that legacy brand behind it, like, what works and what doesn't?
Yep. So again, I think it's about finding what niche you want to go for. So, are you a bingo website? Are you a slots focused website? Are you going to just go heavy on reviews, sports? If so, which sport or bonuses or new casinos? Because those are all different keyword options, different domain options, and then it gives you a niche focus, and then you can always build on, but you need to make sure you have a solid foundation first rather than trying to do everything at the same time. So if you start in casino, you shouldn't try and do sportsbook straight away. Equally, if you are a sportsbook, you shouldn't try and do casino straight away. It's all about finding what your niche is and how you're going to separate yourselves out from all of the other products out there, because you do see some new products or some newer domains coming up through the markets, and they do that from knowing their niche, investing in top quality content and building on that instead of trying to do everything at the same time.
I think probably the same advice could be given to like operators. You find that quite a lot that you'll start off with like a solid casino brand, but then they've just added bolt on after bolt on after bolt on, and then all of a sudden they've just kind of lost their brand, and they've got this massive product portfolio, but then nobody really knows who they are anymore because they've just kind of got so much stuff added into it.
And you see that especially with the older brands that have been around for a long time. Either they fight so hard to stay the same so nothing has changed, or like I said, they just bolt on, bolt on, bolt on, and no one really knows what the brand is anymore or what's special about it, because it's just a whiz of all of these features, functionalities that people may or may not even be using. It's just someone in a meeting room thought this is a really great idea, we should do this, without checking do players actually want this.
I think that's a big thing. I think a lot of the time this goes back to that like user feedback and stuff as well, and which is really why affiliates like yourselves are really, really useful because you can provide that. But a lot of the time these decisions are made without actually any research
Yeah.
into what the players want, and it's just like, no, this will be good because this is a commercial deal we have with the platform provider or with the games provider, so we'll just push ahead with kind of leaving everybody else behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, counterintuitive, right, Sharon? Because if you don't have that information from average Joe Block who's going to be using your product, then you're missing out a huge thing, because you're trying to target him and get his attention without asking, hey, Joe, what do you want?
Yeah, 100%. What about the sort of tech stack and tools that you guys use for SEO? Is there anything within that that sort of like make or break your operation? So we love Ahrefs, for example. We love obviously we use analytics and Search Console and all that. But I think from a third party tool that would kind of be your main go to. What about for you guys? Is it a favorite?
We're big Ahrefs geeks here too, so we do love Ahrefs, but I would say also most people live and breathe by Nightwatch. It's a keyword tracking tool. So I know a lot of people that are sleeping on it, or it is the first thing they are checking in the morning. They are going with it on their vacations and checking and screenshotting. The downside of it is that it only updates, I think, once a day at 11, but I can guarantee everybody knows when it updates, and everybody's I'm surprised that we don't have more outages with it, because the amount of people that we have are clicking. But then other than that, the other big tool we use here is Search Console, and that's just for more granular information about how specific pages are performing. Do we have any tech issues? And it's quite user friendly. So, whether you're day one or whether you're really experienced, I think Search Console just kind of packages things nicely. Whereas with Ahrefs, it can be a bit overwhelming. So you log in and you're looking at dashboards, you're looking at tabs everywhere. I know they have the little I buttons, but I think for first time users, it can be very overwhelming, whereas Search Console is a little bit more compact.
Yeah, you're right. I think the user interface it's a bit sort of clunky and they're always like developing it and adding on. So then you've got about 5 million reports that you can look at. And it kind of
Absolutely.
feels like if you're new to it, you could end up in just that rabbit hole.
And I see that with, they go down, keyword reads, so they just click onto the keywords, and then, they go down rabbit holes then into CPC, and then you have to explain this is for paid, this is, for focusing on organic, you can just ignore it. And then they're like, well, why is this there? Well, some people are using Ahrefs for paid, so they're trying to service everybody.
But by that point, you just need the answer. They're like, no, but it's here. I need to understand why that data's in there.
Yeah.
So in terms of like that sort of analytics side of things, how do you use that to sort of steer your content strategy moving forward? How far in advance do you sort of plan ahead?
So I think like everybody, obviously there are key events during the year that we look to. So like Christmas is the big one, for casinos, and Halloween as well for like slots. Easter, and then obviously for sports, there's events pretty much going out through the year. But how we would use analytics mainly is to kind of keep our finger on the pulse, so kind of see, okay, this type of content is performing. This, these are the issues we're having. So maybe we have low time on site. So then maybe, the page isn't interactive enough, or maybe that there's too much time on site. So then for us, our ideal user journey is someone clicks onto our website, they click off again because they found an operator or a bonus that they want.
Yeah. No, 100%.
We're using analytics all the time to kind of gauge, okay, are we getting it right, and if so, where, so then we can replicate it. And where are we getting it wrong, more importantly, so then we can go back to the drawing board and kind of go through everything granularly and know, okay, we're making this mistake and this is it. And then that's where, then you have your testing and everything coming in. So we get to a point where 9 times out of 10, hopefully we're getting it right.
And how do you balance that? So I think like a lot of maybe back from an agency side of things, some of the feedback that we get is sometimes that the content can be too promotional heavy, and then our job is to kind of come back and say, well, these are creative ideas that you can do, and this is how we can implement those. So from your side, how do you balance, promotional versus informative versus just engaging content for when that user goes onto the site?
Yeah, so I think that's, about knowing what your specific content type is for, and also knowing your audience and kind of having your, again, another way to differentiate your products, from each other, but also from the market. So what is the tone of voice? Are you writing from a character, say like John Slott's point of view, or, is it a generic brand where you're using we? Because obviously you can tailor it then to personalize it, so you can personalize for John. So this is what John thinks versus, well, we as Casino Tops Online think this.
Mm. And what do you think about AI content generation?
So I think it's definitely useful, but I don't think it's there in terms of like fully fledged content. Of course, it can be there to, I think to help writers, with ideation. I think it's great. I think with helping clean up like spelling and grammar mistakes, but would I trust it on a large scale content production? Not yet. I'm not impressed so far.
You know what? I think a big part of it is exactly what you were kind of touching on before. Like we're all supposed to be experts, and that's the point. So it's supposed to be people who have used that operator site. It's supposed to be people who understand the product and can give like an unbiased opinion on that in order to like meet effectively. And I think when you're using AI, I think you're right. I think like it can come with really really great prompts, like creative prompts, like some of our marketing ideas. If you put in it, but that replacement of like human.
It's just not there yet, at least not for reviews and whatever. Like it of course could whack out a great guide that you could use, say for how to play poker.
Yeah.
It would help you, but then, how a person is going to interact with poker online, or even if you give them a deck of cards, that's not something that AI can tell you yet. They can't tell you that, you're feeling nervous, or, what it feels like to have a winning hand in your, either online or, in person. And until it gets there, I think it's always going to miss the mark slightly, because people want genuine interaction, and they want to know that someone has use this product or use this service or played this game, and if so, how, what did they find, what frustrated them. AI is only going to be able to give you probably a very good textbook definition of all the gameplay styles, the themes, the symbols, great stuff, but it can't tell you how you interacted with it or how it felt to play it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing emotive behind it. It's all just kind of top line, which is great, and it does give you that prompt. But I think, yeah, 100% it'd be worth it. And what about looking into the future? Do you see any sort of shifts in user behavior? Or is there any sort of plans for Gentoo? Are you shifting any of your SEO strategies?
I think most of ours are fairly centered around kind of EAT and how to build on that. So I think, looking at, okay, how can we scale up, our authors, and how can we support them, build that expertise, build that trust with our players, because trust is so important. I think everyone knows this. It takes a lifetime to build, and if you lose it, it's nigh on impossible to kind of get that back. So that's making sure then that we are, trying to build trust with our users, and also that we're maintaining that trust. So if we're saying that a brand is 5 stars, that we need to make sure that, to the best of our knowledge, that brand is 5 stars. We're not just giving them 5 stars because of X, Y, or Z. And if we're saying this game is really great, well, is it great? Why is it great? So we're always answering the user's intent, and we're trying to give them value from our content, because otherwise they could go anywhere. And
Yeah.
we want them to come to us, we want them to keep coming to us, but the second we don't give them value, they will look elsewhere because players are also fickle, and like I said, the market is saturated. There's plenty of other affiliates and operators out there who would be more than happy to kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah, they're not going to be stuck for choice.
definitely not.
Well, that actually kind of answered my next question as well in terms of like future proofing, but I think you've pretty much answered that there, so thank you, Emma. But I think the last thing I wanted to touch on was in terms of geo targeting and geo expansion. I know we talked a little bit earlier about, affiliates and operators sometimes trying to do like too much at once and kind of making all of that happen. I think definitely from a challenge from an agency side has kind of been that as well. So, it's been an affiliate saying that, but now we want to merge into like 10 different markets and this all needs to happen very, very quickly. Has that been something that you've experienced, and how have you mitigated that from your side of things?
Yeah, so I think, the big market that everyone thinks of is America, right? And that is something it took us a really long time to build up and to get right. So that is a mix of, trying domains that we had maybe, sitting in the back for a long time and aging them up, and then slowly building up a strong content strategy, and then launching some new websites. So maybe you can take some more risks and test a few different things that maybe you wouldn't want to do on some of your bigger websites. And then again, being able to utilize the bigger brands we have, like Casino Tops Online, Ask Gamblers. They also give us a foot in the door again, so we can kind of learn something all the time to use to power up our smaller and newer websites. And also where we see, where we're testing something on our newer websites that maybe we wouldn't use on AD, it's still useful information to have. So it's a mix of having kind of, older websites where you can learn from, newer websites where you can test, and then constantly kind of trying to get that balance right between, okay, what's going to work here and what's also going to work here.
Perfect. So I've got one last question for you, Emma, and I've asked every speaker in season one, so you might be prepared for it. So obviously what we're trying to do is make sure that we're giving away some key takeaways and golden nuggets for people who are maybe not as established in the iGaming industry yet and are just kind of finding their way. So, what we wanted to know was if there was one piece of advice that someone had given you from your whole journey there that you think is invaluable, what would that be?
So I think I spoke to you about this a bit before about my story through iGaming. So some very interesting advice I would definitely say I've been given is laugh now, cry later. Because it's I think it's so important, especially, in this day and age. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there. So, whether or not Google is treating you well or not, laugh about it. Then you can cry about it afterwards. If a keyword is going up, laugh, enjoy it now.
Yeah.
Cry about it later, because everything is so volatile. You also have to have some fun with it. Content is meant to be fun at the end of the day, and SEO, as stressful as it is, it can give you these golden moments where, everyone is happy because you've achieved something.
Good life advice also.
So,
Right, that says we've got our audiogram, Emma. We're sorted. we've got our key out. Okay, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your expertise with our listeners. It's been absolutely amazing, and I know I've learned some stuff from you guys as well. So thank you so much.
thank you for having me, Sharon. It's been great speaking to you.
Thank you.